Hello all, and welcome to Shatter Our Souls with Novar. Today we are taking a trip down the Flower Cup 100cc itemless in Mario Kart Wii. Now, the point of this has been pretty self-explanatory. I cannot intentionally use items at any point in time throughout each cup of Mario Kart Wii, aiming for the gold. Doesn't need to be a perfect score, doesn't need to be anything of that nature, but the goal being success. A gold trophy means that we could, theoretically, and literally, beat the game without using items. Up to this point, the 100cc iteration of each cup has been kind of underwhelming and overwhelming, if that makes any sense at all. When I did this run with Mario Kart Double Dash, 100cc was just another CC. It didn't really change up the gameplay, didn't change up how things worked too well. It just said, hey, you're playing the game, enjoy, and I didn't notice much of a difference. Mario Kart Wii, on the other hand, has a huge jump in difficulty between 50 and 100cc. Now, part of my issue with 50 and 100cc's difference is that I'm more of a kart player than I am a bike player. Something that a lot of people will say that I am not very good at Mario Kart for using. That's fine. I totally get it. To me, karts always made more sense. The extra boost, the kind of more stable style of play. The boost of the wheelie system in the bike, well, it worked, just never really sat right with me. I always felt like I was doing something wrong or that it didn't turn out the way that I had hoped. And so, for me, it generally is more approachable to use karts over bikes. But every individual is entirely unique. The second issue that I'm running into with the 100cc of Mario Kart Wii compared to the GameCube version has to do with the fact that in the GameCube version I had a partner helping me out. A friend who was in the back seat just enjoying vibing, chit-chatting, and playing the game with me while we did what we always do. We goofed off, we gamed out, we had a grand old time, and made a mess of Mario Kart because that's what you do. And I'm not going to say that it went smooth or perfect. I don't think that's true to the instance that it was. But I do believe that given that we had a 95% success rate with odds and ends that didn't work out 100%, I think it's pretty fair to say that we did all right. The primary focus of that and why I think it went as well as it did comparatively had to do with the fact that player 2 in Mario Kart Double Dash can do melee hits, bonking opponents as you drive past them, allowing you to steal items or something of that nature. And Mario Kart Wii has nothing of that effect at all. And so every time I played Mario Kart Wii comparatively to Mario Kart Double Dash, I always found that Double Dash I was doing better or felt like I was doing better than I am in Mario Kart Wii. And that's a little bit of a shame because I do think that both games are incredible. But if I were to pick one over the other, I think the track variety of Wii wins out the day. I don't want to say that Mario Kart Wii is exponentially better than anything that shows up in Mario Kart Double Dash. But I am going to say that Double Dash had a very solid roster. B's and C's were the low end. But the thing is that Mario Kart Wii had many more tracks. Double, to be exact. And that's kind of the reason why I gravitated more towards Mario Kart Wii being the stronger game. Just because you weren't playing the same 16 races. It's the reason why, and this is gonna sound weird, but it's gonna sound the reason why I don't necessarily like the Sonic racing games all that much. is the ones that I had played had like 6 to 10 tracks on average. And they didn't really do much with those 12 tracks at max. Mario Kart Double Dash had 16 that each did a fair bit. Mario Kart Wii has 32. And if you want to go as far as Mario Kart 8, you can say that it has 96 tracks. And that expansive nature of each of the newer games getting a little bit bigger than the one before it is both a blessing and a curse. If you look at Mario Kart 8, a lot of the new courses, especially the booster course, were given a very harsh review by a lot of players. Generally speaking, most people went to the perspective of this booster course pass, did we really need another 48 tracks? And my answer to it is, it's more Mario Kart. It's more tracks, more gameplay. Okay, not every track is an absolute banger, but that's kind of par for the course. Every single game is going to have something that it does right, something it does wrong, and something that doesn't quite land the way it was intended to. In my mind, Mario Kart 8's Booster Course Pass didn't land the way it was intended to. But I would be amiss to say that I don't enjoy it, that I don't gravitate towards those tracks because there's something new, something different from what I got used to. And so, I think, in general, that the Mario Kart games really do a lot with what they're given. I won't say they're perfect, no game ever is. But if I could pick something that I thought was done well in every single one of them, track design and variety is, bar none, one of the biggest heavy hitters when it comes to talking about it. Anywho, with that, we're at the midpoint of race 3. We're at 30-ish points, if my memory serves accurate, which means we were about halfway there. And I think we're going to be in pretty good spirits coming to the latter half of all the tracks. For that reason and that reason only. Overall, as I said, Mario Kart Wii's tracks are well brought out, well thought out, well played out. Mario Kart Wii's biggest, I suppose, contingency problem that I tend to come across and tend to mention has to do with the AI. Has to do with how the game is presented in the solo space. See, it's not exactly, what's the word? Unnoticed or unknown that different Mario Kart games treat AI differently. And in Mario Kart 64, for example, it was known that characters would straight up teleport or cheat when you played the game. The AI was it was designed in a way that was meant to save space, meant to make the game easier to build from a developer side. Often didn't do 100% of what they intended to do. Mario Kart Wii has a very, I don't want to call it that it's a game's AI cheats. Far from it. But I do believe that the AI of Mario Kart Wii is significantly stronger and well-rounded than the AI of previous games. An example of it is their pathfinding. Now, Mario Kart 64 had each character kind of gravitate to one of 3 paths. And this is great. This helps round out the roster, makes it so that at absolutely no point in time does any individual character kind of fall behind or lose relevance. But it also runs into this really weird circumstance where each character kind of, the ones that go wide or are, I don't want to word this. The track choice or the route choice was very different. It would allow characters to slide in and out of their particular chosen pathing, depending on circumstances, like a banana being in their way. And this is great. It meant that the player could theoretically manipulate the AI into doing certain things, and eventually falling for a trap or two. This is great. Mario Kart Wii's AI generally sticks to fairly strict or rigid lines. By what I've seen, typically characters tend to take a middle or inner line, if at all possible. And this is great. It's good for the AI to be consistent in many ways. But what I think sets this apart and why I don't think it works 100% of the time is that each and every one of these pathing problems that might crop up, these characters are faster or more well-rounded in certain circumstances than others. An example being Wario's Gold Mine. It is a fairly straightforward track. It is designed around a basic loop with highs, lows, item usage, etc. It is intended to be a high-end, high-difficulty track comparatively to the rest of the Flower Cup. And it is intended to be an exceptional example of what can go wrong, or rather, how the not what can go wrong, of what the game's difficulty spikes are going to look like. The AI is decent at these tracks. It follows a path that is out of harm's way 9 times out of 10. This is perfect. They don't have to worry about where their opponent is 24/7. But they also have this innate ability to knock themselves and others off the edges, just because, well, there are no edges to speak of. Is this perfect? Who knows? But, with everything I've said, and with what I believe here, there's one thing we cannot refute. Luigi, without the use of items, has ended up in first place all 4 races. Which means, if my calculations are correct, that the Flower Cup is indeed completable without items at 100cc. Anyways, if you like what you see, drop a like, leave a sub. I'll catch you next week as we are going to be tackling the Star Cup? That sounds about right. Anywho, I hope you all have a good one.